Guess what time it is?
Her favorite time of the night.
Food time. We have Todd Howard here with us from Escafe. Hi, Todd.
Howdy.
Thank you so much for bringing all this divine food.
You say that now.
I do. You're right. We will be the taste testers. Yes, I said that right.
My honor to be here.
Thank you.
pleasure.
And you, shall we have a toast?
Absolutely.
What are we toasting with?
We're toasting with Felicity, and he's toasting with the Majas.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the invite.
Cheers, my dear.
Cheers.
This is the most important part of the meal, to cleanse the palate before you begin.
Mm-hmm. Depends on how many cocktails you've had before.
Right. All right, so let's start.
Escafe on the mall.
On the mall.
Great location.
It is. It's a fantastic location. A little private patio right there.
Beautiful. Right down at the end by the Omni.
Yes, and convenient to that little private parking space right outside the Artful Lodger and the Hearing Aid Place and Ananda right around the corner, Camino and Vinegar Hill as well.
You can park in there for your restaurant?
If you have a car. I mean, if you don't, then you can't park, obviously.
Oh, right.
You're not going to park a, grocery cart.
No. Some people might try, though. We did have the Charlottesville Health Access here earlier.
Yeah, there have been people that have parked their grocery carts there before.
Before you come up to the Haven, just park it right there.
Exactly.
How long has your restaurant been there?
Well, when you say my restaurant, it's not necessarily my restaurant. I do own it. I have the most money and time into it, obviously. But I think of Escafe as more of a consortium of culture. That is to say, everybody that works there loves working there, and it means a lot to them because it means so much to the community. Escafe as an entity and as an institution goes back 15 years. This year is our 15th year anniversary.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
And it has been involved, thank you very much, it is involved in the fostering and the support of agencies like Aid Services Group, women's groups, any number of churches throughout its history, because Sean and Doug fostered that sort of culture there. It's an artist culture, it's a performing arts culture, it's a haven for LGBTQ citizens in our community, and even more so now than it was before. So it's a tremendous focal point for culture. It's a very important institution. So I hold myself not so much as the owner, but as the custodian. Or the shepherd, the foster of it.
That's lovely. You're full of surprises.
Meh, I don't think that's not a surprise. I don't think so. It's a pleasure.
So you are a foodie. You're a lover of food.
I am.
You call yourself a cook rather than a chef.
I do.
But you love the culture of the cooking. Tell us a little bit about what led you to having your own restaurant.
Pancakes.
Pancakes!
When I was younger, that was the first thing that I had actually had any passion whatsoever in creating. And I would create any number of successes and an equal number of, if not more, failures. And it was a learning process, but I learned by baking and I learned by doing. But it taught me, I guess, a level of resilience that you have to have when you're cooking. You have to accept those failures. You have to accept those learning moments. And that's what improves anybody's cooking. So that's what I really dig mostly about that. And what's important in the restaurant industry in all regards, even outside of food, just the very act of putting a plate in front of somebody and getting their order correct on most nights is an act of pleasing somebody else. They've come to your house, and that's how we treat it. That's how everybody that works at Escafe, and I would dare say just about any restaurant, treats their place, is that you come into my house, we're expected to give really good service, and try as we may, we sometimes fail, but we most often, more often than not, hit the mark.
I love that.
And but that's the.
That was my experience there. I had a wonderful experience at your restaurant.
Yeah, so did I.
I think you did as well.
From your accent, I'm going to assume you migrated to Virginia.
I did migrate to Virginia.
From where?
Is my accent really coming through that much now?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's actually not.
I like your
Two
voice.
sips of wine, and here I am.
Well, let's see what happens after a third.
Texas is where I was born, Dallas, Fort Worth, and was born and bred there, and then a little bit of Little Rock and a little bit of Memphis. And then back and forth between Memphis and Dallas, and ended up in San Francisco, and finally ended up here. I've been here since '01, August of '01.
Do you love Charlottesville?
I do.
I love it too.
Fell in love with it even before I moved here.
Really? How?
Yeah, well, I was working for an agency, a nonprofit organization called International Rescue Committee, which everybody pretty much knows well here. Susan Donovan was the director at that time. I was working for the New York office as an IT person, and so I was roving all over the place, fixing things and developing the technology for all the regional offices and sub-offices and satellite offices throughout the nation, which by the time I left numbered about 22.
Wow.
And I based myself out of Charlottesville because it was convenient to the East Coast and it wasn't in New York. I wasn't quite ready for the big city. I'd already lived in San Francisco and was pining for my formative years in Collierville, Tennessee, and Charlottesville sort of fit the bill. It had seasons too, which I couldn't quite shake my affinity for.
Doable seasons.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, unless we're talking about last winter.
Right, which was our first winter.
Yeah, last winter and starting in December was a little bit brutal.
Yeah.
I shoveled so much snow.
Yeah. Me too.
I think all of us did.
I got quite good at it, actually. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the novelty of it. I just hope it doesn't happen again.
I actually heard from one of my, if y'all will tolerate an anecdote,
of course.
It was during that time that Tony, who's a professor up at UVA, he was one of a few classics professors up there. He speaks Latin and Greek and all that. But he came in and he said, "I'm so happy that you're open." And I said, "Did you shovel snow today to get out?" He said, "Absolutely not. I just climbed out." And he said, "Well, why didn't you shovel snow?" And he said, A, I didn't have a shovel, and B, it's very well known that men who don't exercise regularly shouldn't exercise, especially shoveling snow. He said, "That's the reason that they have snowblowers in Canada."
There
He said,
you go, John.
"There are all these cardiac arrests happening for shoveling
It's justified
snow."
then.
That is so funny.
He said, "So I didn't even bother. I'm happy to be here." And so
That's awesome.
But Tony was one of my inspirations for sticking to it, and remains to this day a source of optimism for me. He's the one that said, "You got to change things, or else I'll leave." He hasn't left yet.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable. Okay,
Yes.
you're fascinating,
Meh.
but your food looks fascinating
It
as well.
should. Tim Taylor, a new acquired chef who has a passion for cooking and also a talent for doing it very quickly, put together these plates today at my request. We have curry turkey.
I'm going to start.
Go ahead. I'll tell you about the food while you're eating,
Okay.
and so you don't have to talk.
Excuse my crunching.
It's quite okay. I hope it's still crunchy. The curry turkey we make in-house. It's an all-natural turkey. We have different sources for that as need be, but my only edict is that we get all-natural turkey. It makes all the difference on the palate, makes all the difference in terms of texture and what we can do with it. We do make our own curry.
You make your own curry?
From seeds.
Oh,
No, that's the way you're supposed to do
It's
it.
delicious.
that's the
Thank
way
you.
you're supposed to do it.
It
exactly.
is. And very little mayonnaise, very light on the mayonnaise.
And you've got fruit in there, which I love in curry, right? Some
Yes.
apples.
When we don't have pears, and it's the green d'Anjou
Love it.
pears, which
Oh,
are
yeah.
perfect for the curry, we use green apples, which have essentially the same taste profile.
I love it.
And pears are a little bit softer.